Hey, this is Rob Anspach, and welcome back to eHeroes. Today's eHero is Ashley Pepitone, and we're going to talk about all kinds of great things. Maybe divorce. We're going to talk about family law. We're going to talk about pricing. So, welcome, Ashley, and thanks for being
Thank
here.
you.
It's like I said off air. This is, I just got over COVID. I know a lot of people are dealing with that, and when you have an illness or a virus like that, that can actually impact how the family dynamic takes place. And I know with myself and my wife, we both had COVID at the same time. And, our nerves were shot, our energies were low. And, we probably said a few things we regret to say. But, we've been happily married for 32 years. So, I don't think what we're going to say is going to really affect us. But a lot of people do take those words, and they break up. But I think one of the things I didn't want to talk about was the negative, and I already jumped into the negative. But I think family law is a very important aspect of society, and it helps keep marriages together. So let's talk about that. And thanks for being here.
Absolutely. Yeah. I'm excited to be here. Thank you for having me. Um, my goal is always to focus on the positive because you're going to have two sides of every coin. There's going to be positive and negative. I'm never, I'm not definitely not in the business of trying to break anything that's not already broken.
Right.
But I do consider myself very lucky that people come to me to help fix what is already broken and help maybe not fix the marriage so that so that it remains intact, but fix the relationship,
Right.
at least to where, especially if there are children involved, these parties can continue on and co-parent in a healthy way. um, I don't take that lightly at all. So, and for the record, COVID has impacted families whether or not you even got it. Right? Lockdown, we've seen in China. We knew this was going to come to the States because in China, the divorce rate spiked incredibly early on. And definitely myself and all my colleagues are busier than we've ever been right now. So I think COVID really shined a bright light on a lot of things. A lot of people started to really take a good hard look at what's important and what is going to make them happy in their lives, and got people to wake up a little bit and stop taking their time for granted. So, yeah. So let's talk about the positives. What can I answer for you?
Well, I like I said, I've been married for a long time, and friends comment, they'll say, "Hey, I've seen prison sentences, with less time," and we all joke
I don't
about,
like that comparison.
we all joke about that, but it's marriages don't last as long now that they used to. My parents have been married 51 years.
Mhm.
My wife's parents have been married, I think 53 years.
Mhm.
You don't see that anymore in this next generation coming through, and I think it's just going to get worse and worse and worse. And I love social media. I love creating content for my clients, but I believe social media is one of the big factors that split people apart. Yeah.
So I think it depends on how you're looking at it. Worse and worse is one way to look at it, but I there are a lot of people who stay in marriages that are miserable for a really long time, and I think it is interesting because whether it's a societal change, well, it is a societal change, but whether it's just getting a divorce has become easier, I don't think that's necessarily the case. I think what's happened is the stigma associated with divorce is being chipped away at, which I think is good because there are lots of people who are in very unhealthy relationships, relationships that are not good for them. And those people are feeling less and less pressure and feeling more empowered to take their lives back. So I think that that's overall a good thing for society. I don't think society at large or any one individual is served by anyone staying in a relationship that is not healthy for
Right.
them or for their children. So I tend to look at it as a good thing, not
Right.
necessarily that the numbers are trending up from what they used to be, but that people are feeling less pressure by society to stay in unhappy and or unhealthy, maybe even abusive relationships.
Right.
Oops.
So when a client or clients come to you, and they're complaining about their marriage, do you see that the most of them get divorced, or do you see that they really want to truly work on it and save the marriage?
By the time they come to me, usually they're not questioning it anymore. Sometimes they are, and in those cases, I always send them to a counselor. There's a special subset of marriage counseling. It's called discernment counseling, and it really is geared towards helping parties, not pushing them in one way or the other. I mean, some discernment counselors are better than others. I'm not saying that every discernment counselor does it perfectly, but the idea is that the counselor's helping to guide the parties toward a decision. Is this a relationship that you want to work on, that you're both committed on working on saving, or is it time to part ways? And is that better for both of you?
Mhm.
Um, so that's what I do. But usually they're already there by the time they call me.
Yeah, yeah, and it's a shame, but um, all businesses need to make money, so you welcome those types of clients, and I find that it's not just couples. It's the family dynamic, but when you look at it also as partnership, a lot of those men and women, or spousals, couples, they also own businesses together.
Hmm.
And so that, it's not just splitting up the family asset, it's splitting up the business asset. And I hate to see businesses
Maybe
fail. Yeah.
you don't have to.
Well, it's sometimes it's hard to run a business, when you're screaming at each other constantly.
Yeah, well, you don't have to be screaming at each other constantly either. This is the thing. People, and this is what I strive to to help people realize. Divorce doesn't have to look like any one thing. It doesn't have to look like screaming at each other all the time. It doesn't have to look like this. It's not going to be 100%
Mhm.
happy, joyful thing,
Right.
but neither is planning a wedding.
Oh yeah.
I mean, I fought with my husband probably more when we were planning our wedding than we have in our entire marriage. So, anything that's a stressful event in your life is going to add to some bickering and some tension, but it doesn't the act of divorcing itself does not have to be the lowest point of your life. It doesn't even have to be the lowest point of your relationship. In fact, I think it can be a turning point for that, if you have the right people in your corners. Now, I did a quick video pretty recently because I was listening to How I Built This. Do you listen to that podcast?
I do. I glanced at a couple of your videos, and I
Yeah,
mean that's why I reached out to you, because I think your
yeah.
approach is very unique, and you spend a lot of time educating people, and I think that's the key.
Yeah. So Stacy from Stacy's Pita Chips, she and her husband started that business together. I think they started it before they were married, and then they got married, and then they divorced, and eventually they ended up selling the company. But there was a period of time, and throughout the divorce, they decided not to break up their business relationship, which I thought was so awesome. It doesn't happen very often, but it can happen. And the key is to have the right professionals in your corner that are willing to help make that happen, which is one reason I do flat fees. It doesn't benefit me at all to make litigation any harder than it has to be.
Hmm.
And so I think that helps clients trust me a lot more than they might if I were, billing in 6-minute increments.
Yeah, And let's talk about your podcast because a lot of not only divorce attorneys but attorneys themselves don't know how to market. They don't know how to educate, and so they put up a sign.
I don't have a podcast
They don't have a
yet.
pie, and so they put up a sign in their building and say, hey, this is what we do. But then they say, well, oh my goodness, this social media, this podcasting, this video stuff, it's just too much.
Mhm.
So how do you
Mhm.
you know um, make the time because you're helping all these clients, but now you have to make time to make these videos and podcasts.
I don't have a podcast yet. So all I do is the videos, and I
Well,
really
so
don't
the videos could be
advertise.
turned into podcasts very
I
easily.
know, I know, I know. But they really are. If you look at them, I don't think any of them are longer than 5 minutes.
Hmm.
And I just find whatever time I can. Most of them are me sitting in my car. Well, they're all. I think almost all of them are me sitting in my car. Um, Usually in the parking lot of a Starbucks or the local coffee shop that I like to go to. Or in the car rider line at my kid's school because I've got, 20, 30 minutes to kill just sitting there. So I keep a list of topics on my phone, different questions people have asked me that I think would make good topics. And I just pick one whenever I've got 20 minutes to kill. And, because it takes a couple shots usually. I trip over my words a few times, but
Yeah.
eventually I get one that's good enough to post.
And here's the thing, for me, is the first 100 videos I created were awful, but I posted them
Oh, yeah.
anyway, and I still make
Mhm.
mistakes. I still stumble over my words, but for me, it's a one take shot deal. It just, oh yeah, I made mistakes. I don't care. It's going out,
Yeah.
I just don't have time to do the proper editing and I see people that push out videos constantly every day, 5 or 6 videos
Yeah.
a day. And I'm like, when do you have time for clients? And I think you have to have
Yeah.
that balance, and you are doing that balance because you're taking the opportunity, the time that you have, being in lines and here and there, and utilizing it for something good.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
It doesn't take a lot. You just got to find those little pockets.
right, and I think that you're taking that example and showing people, especially married people, because you take those pockets of opportunity to improve your marriage. But a lot of people just sit on their laurels, like say, "Wow,"
Hmm.
and then the marriage gets worse and worse. And for me, it's always been those pockets of opportunity to say, hey, something nice to my wife, or bring her flowers, or do something. And the same with my employees, same with my contractors, my vendors. Everything to me is that relationship building.
Yeah. Just nurturing the relationships whenever you can. That's great
You know,
advice.
yeah, and so you're taking that time that you are picking up your kids at school or picking up a coffee, and you're turning into something that's help educating people, and I think that's great. You know,
Thanks.
but it's we get to see the inside of your car. We get to see, and and so I get I do all my videos down in my basement because this is my office,
Yeah.
and I've been doing this for 10 years.
Sure.
Before that I had another business, and but I've had this consulting business for 20 years, but it was just um, trying to run multiple businesses at once didn't work. So I had to get rid of one. And so I focused on
Yeah.
this one.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes people focus on the wrong things, not only in their marriage but in their business. And it hurts. I know friends that'll say,
Yeah.
"On my free time I'm going golfing." Yeah, does your wife like golf? No, she hates golfing. Why don't you spend time with her? Ah, no. Then they get divorced. Well, dude, it was the golfing. But you know, we
Probably wasn't just the golfing.
but I think that we don't know how to, or we as a society don't know how to include others in our activities.
Yeah, I think I think there's something to be said for that for sure. There's, the whole self-care
Right.
movement, but you shouldn't be neglecting your care for others who are important to you
Right.
at the same time. You also shouldn't be in a relationship where you're allowing somebody to neglect you
Hmm.
either. So there's a fine line. And I think that's where a lot of people, if and when they do come to me and they're not sure yet, that's kind of where they are, right?
Right.
They're at this point where it's like, I'm not getting the attention and the support that I need. So what do I do? And that's when I send them to the discernment counselor,
Right.
because there's probably an underlying reason. It's probably not just I like golf and she doesn't.
Hmm. It's I need to escape and do
Right.
something.
Right. And it might not be escaping the marriage. It might be escaping the pressures of their job. It might be
Right.
escaping their own, depression or anxiety. So it's just seeking counseling. I think everybody in the world should be in therapy.
Mhm.
I think we all need it.
Well, I
And
think
so,
sometimes we use social media as that therapy, and it makes us worse.
yeah, there are some good there are some good accounts that I follow, especially on Instagram, that have some good advice. Therapists and like energy healers and people like that. So there are people out there doing better work on
Right.
social media, but I think as a whole, it's probably not where you should seek your mental health mental health assistance.
Yeah, it's terrible. I see so many people that are like, well, I got advice from Facebook, or like, really?
Yeah,
You Because they don't have the money to go to a professional, and
or they think they don't.
right, right. And and that kind of takes us to your website, and you have this flat fee service philosophy,
Yeah,
and my take is I don't put prices on websites, because to me it's always that, you know now people can compare me to others, but
sure.
you put it right out there,
Hmm.
and you let people know, hey, this is what we charge, this is what we do, this is the price, and I think it works for some.
Hmm.
I don't think it works for all businesses,
Hmm.
but I'm sure that you do. There's got to be a reason. Can you
Yeah.
shed light on that?
Yeah, I agree. It doesn't work for everybody. I think it works well
Mhm.
for attorneys who practice on a flat fee model.
Mhm.
And to clarify, the fees that are on my website are kind of my starting point. So
Mhm.
it's like this is generally where this type of case is going to land,
Right.
but you can't account for anything that's possibly going to happen in
Right.
litigation. So the fees are structured by phase of your case. And I try to quote my client at the very beginning of the case, this is where I see it going. I can usually determine with some degree of certainty what steps we are going to have to go through.
Mhm.
Most divorces never have depositions, but I know off the top of, like, I know immediately, almost every time, if we are going to have to depose people in this case. So I work that in so that the client is prepared for it. I practiced for about 8 years on a billable hour format before going out on my own and doing flat fees. So I saw what worked and what didn't.
Mhm.
Um, and here's the thing. Here's why I practice specifically family law on flat fees. My goal is to make sure that my clients end their time with me in a better financial, emotional, maybe even physical, spiritual place than when they first came through
Right.
my door or through my website or my phone.
Mhm.
Um, and part of that is helping to set expectations early on. And a big part of that is making sure that they are financially prepared for the next phase of their life. And I can't do that when I'm telling people, I don't know how much your divorce is going to cost. We're just going to wing it every month. Depends on what comes up. And if you email me more this month, well, you're going to pay me, $2,000 more this month. And next month, it might be a slow month. It's too much pressure and stress for people who are already going through one of the most stressful things you could possibly go through. And your finances are one of the biggest stressors in your life in general. So how can I expect for my work to be serving these people when I'm telling them I have no idea how much it's going to cost? Think about the biggest investments you make in your life, and a divorce is going to be one of them if you're going through it, or custody battle, or any kind of family law litigation that's contested is going to be a big investment. And you have to look at it that way. But you wouldn't walk to a car dealership. Well, a car is not really an investment necessarily, but you wouldn't go to buy a house and say, how much is this house going to, how much you're going to pay for the house up front. You know what you're going to pay for the car up front, the TV, whatever. There's no question marks about it. So why is it that people are okay with telling their clients, I have no idea how much this is going to cost you? That's bull. If you've been doing this for any period of time, you have an idea and you have ways to control how much it is going to cost them. And so I kind of want to smash all that to pieces. And I do put my starting fees on my website because I want to be compared with others. Go ahead. I don't want to waste their time or mine.
I like your car analogy, because we just bought a new car, and as we're sitting there doing all the paperwork, the car salesman says, well, if you want to buy this extra warranty, or you want to do this and do this and do that, and I'm looking down the fees, I'm like, wait a minute, if my car payment's this and you want me to buy all these other things, my car payment's going to be double.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, okay, when it's been years since I bought a brand new car.
Yeah.
So I didn't have to deal with all that. But I remember they didn't used to always sell me all this other stuff. Right. Imagine you as a lawyer saying, well, this is the price of your wedding. Now, if you buy this insurance and this divorce insurance, you'll be covered.
Right.
Yeah. So you're making it so much easier because, in this context on your website, they kind of understand, hey, this is the fee. I know that it could cap a little bit, or it could go up a little bit, but if it's within this realm, it's just going to be a flat fee.
This is ballpark, right? Yeah. Yes, exactly. And a lot of people do have to borrow money for their divorce, whether they're borrowing it from friends or family or from a bank. It's a lot easier to say, I need this amount of money and this is going to be it, than I need you to help me finance my divorce. And it's going to be, I don't know how much it's going to be, but I'll tell you on the 15th of every month. It's just too much additional stress that can be mitigated.
Yeah. Money is one of the biggest issues of family problems. And, over the years, I'm sure that most families have argued about something, but, when it comes to, retirement accounts and IRAs and all this other stuff, I have seen, and I'm sure you have, but I've heard so many horrible stories, vindictive people, spouses. Oh yeah, I got his IRA, or I got his retirement. I got this, and then there's always one party that's like devastated, destroyed, because they have no money left. And to me, that's wrong.
Yeah, I don't. It's not what I strive to do, definitely.
And I like your approach, because as this whole podcast is called E-Heroes, entrepreneurial heroes. You are striving to help people, for better or worse, whether it be staying in the family dynamic or divorcing because like you said, it's a turning point, and it doesn't
Mhm.
have to be bad. You're just making it a little bit more comfortable for them going into
Mhm.
the next chapter of their life, you're making it very clear cut with the pricing. And like I said, I've never been a fan of pricing on websites because I feel that it's people look at that and go, oh well, that guy's that person's charging this. I can go to this cheaper person and get it for half the price.
Good. I don't.
Yeah,
Good. That's
go.
fine.
But in that same respect, you are providing a valuable service. But you know, why family law? Why being a divorce attorney? I mean, was there something that caused you to want to get into this business?
Yeah. Um, yeah, I actually have a really definite answer to that question. When I was in law school, I took a class over like a winter break. It was a quick class, but very intensive. It was on depositions actually, and it was a small class. It was more of like a workshop. And the professor pulled me aside at the end of it and she said, "You need to be a litigator. You need to be in the courtroom. You need to be trying cases." And at the time, I was working for a big firm. I was doing compliance work in the mortgage industry. My dad he has a legal tech company that does all compliance and barcoding stuff. So I kind of just figured I'd be in compliance. This is what I'll do. And when I heard that, I said I was shy. I was not real confident. I just couldn't see myself as a litigator. Couldn't see myself in a courtroom full of people, at the front of a courtroom full of people. And so I was like, "Well, I don't think I can do that." And she said, "Well, you have to find it's what you need to do, and you have to find a practice area that's something that you really feel passionate about, and then you'll know." And then I think it was a year later, I was still in law school. My cousin, who is growing up, she was more like a big sister to me. We were really close. We're like 7 years apart, though. She was pregnant with her second child, and her husband left her. And she called me or sent me a text asking for advice, but she was up in Boston. I didn't have my license yet. I didn't know the first thing about family law yet. I wasn't in Boston, I was in Georgia. Um, but I wanted to make sure that she was in the right hands. So I started reaching out and I started trying to do whatever I could to help her. And that's when I knew that when it's something like this, I can get up in front of whoever and fight for this person, these children, if I need to. Um, the money and stuff, it's fine, it's all ancillary to me, but it's the people and the relationships that are important to me. And so when I was working with or helping my cousin, I realized this is what that professor was talking about, and this is what I'm supposed to be doing.
And see, that's how a hero is born. It's always a backstory that creates that momentum that now you got, wow, I know how to do this. I can help more people, and that's the whole purpose of this podcast, so that we can share out our stories and motivate people. And to me, I find the whole thing fascinating. I find every aspect of entrepreneurs, from their beginning story to how they're helping people. I find it all fascinating. And so, how can people learn more about you? You say you're in Georgia, and I'm sure that you only practice in Georgia. But if people are hearing this and they're in Georgia and they need help, where
Yeah.
can they go?
Yeah. So my website is www.pepitone.law. I am You can find me on Instagram, on Facebook as well. And I do only practice in Georgia, but I have a really big network. So if anybody needs to find somebody in a different jurisdiction and wants to shoot me an email and tell me exactly where you are and what you're looking for, I'm always happy to put my feelers out and try to get some names. If I don't know anybody specifically, then I'm always happy to find somebody that will talk to you. So yeah.
And it's Pepitone.law. I mean,
Yeah.
I typed in .com and I got somebody else, and you don't want to do that. So Pepitone.law, and I'll put the link below so people can find it. And so I want to thank all the listeners and thank Ashley and well, guys, we'll see you on the next episode. So see ya.
Thanks. Bye.